The Unheard Symphony, breaking the silence on Black women in music 0.09%. That's not a rounding error. That's not a statistical anomaly. That's the percentage of radio airplay given to songs by Black women, according to recent analysis, 0.09%. I recently had the privilege of interviewing Brycsyn Hampton, a revolutionary force in music advocacy whose work has literally rewritten how we understand representation in the industry. Their groundbreaking research doesn't just collect dust in academic journals, it ignites movements. Hampton has dedicated their life to illuminating the systematic erasure of Black women in music with such precision and passion that even the most resistant industry gatekeepers have been forced to confront uncomfortable truths. What they shared with me wasn't just data, it was a masterclass in cultural reclamation that I'm compelled to amplify today. When Beyonce released Texas Hold'em last year, something remarkable happened. A Black woman's voice broke through on country radio, a genre with deep African American roots that has systematically erased those origins. This wasn't just a musical milestone, it was a mirror reflecting an uncomfortable truth about our cultural landscape. Despite being arguably the most famous performer on the planet, Beyonce's country single became an anomaly, the exception that proves the rule. Radio stations played it because they had to, because the pressure was too great not to, because ignoring Beyonce is like ignoring gravity. But what about everyone else? 0.09%. Let that sink in for a moment. If radio airplay were a 24-hour day, Black women's voices would be heard for just 13 seconds. The rest of the day, everyone else. If radio airplay were a 100-page book, Black women would get less than a single paragraph. The remaining 99.91 pages, everyone else. This number should make us uncomfortable. It should make us squirm in our seats because discomfort is where growth begins. As Hampton eloquently explained during our interview, the erasure is so complete that many people don't even notice it's happening. It's like oxygen, invisible but essential. Except in this case, we're suffocating voices that have always been the lifeblood of American music. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. Country music wouldn't exist without Black women's contributions. Blues wouldn't exist. Rock wouldn't exist. Pop, hip hop, electronic music all bear the unmistakable influence of Black female innovators who have been systematically written out of the story we tell about American music. Hampton's research revealed something particularly fascinating. And by fascinating, I mean infuriating. When Beyonce's Texas Hold'em hit country radio, stations suddenly had their Black female artist quota filled, as if having one Black woman's voice on the airwaves was sufficient representation for an entire demographic, as if playing Beyonce somehow absolved them from playing anyone else. It's the musical equivalent of saying, I'm not racist, I have a Black friend. And it's not just happening here in America. Across the globe in reggaeton, a genre with undeniable Afro diasporic roots, Afro Latina artists face similar battles. Artists like Goyo from Town create extraordinary music while fighting against hypersexualized portrayals and colorism that favors their white presenting peers. Hampton shared with me the story of Mabaland, a Colombian artist whose music blends soul, R&B, and hip hop with traditional Colombian sounds. When she opened for Coldplay in Bogota, Colombian media barely covered it. Meanwhile, white presenting Latina artists received extensive coverage for far less significant achievements. Or consider La Dame Blanche from Cuba and Jay Noah from the Dominican Republic artists creating innovative music that honors their heritage while pushing boundaries. Yet they struggle for recognition in an industry that consistently elevates lighter skinned performers who often appropriate the very sounds pioneered by Afro Latina artists. These artists aren't asking for special treatment. They're asking for equal treatment. They're asking to be seen as creators rather than commodities, as innovators rather than imitators, as the blueprint rather than the photocopy. The problem extends beyond the stage and studio. It reaches into our classrooms, our textbooks, our understanding of musical history itself. Hampton's research into UK music education systems revealed a startling pattern. Even amid diversity initiatives following the 2020 racial justice protests, Black female composers and artists remained largely absent from curricula. As educator Nathan Holder documented, adding names without context risks tokenism rather than meaningful inclusion. Students rarely see themselves authentically reflected unless educators adopt frameworks rooted in lived experience, not box ticking exercises designed to quiet criticism rather than create change. This matters. It matters because what we teach becomes what we know. What we know becomes what we value. What we value becomes what we preserve, and what we preserve becomes our legacy. When we erase Black women from our musical education, we're not just omitting names from a syllabus, we're sending a message about whose contributions count, whose artistry matters, whose humanity deserves recognition. But here's the thing about erasure: it doesn't happen by accident, it happens by design. What is designed can be redesigned. That's where hope lives, that's where change begins. That's where we all come in, because this isn't just about music. This is about power. This is about who gets to be heard and who gets silenced. This is about who gets to take up space and who gets pushed to the margins. As Hampton powerfully articulated during our conversation, there's a direct line between whose music gets played and whose humanity gets valued. When we silence Black women's voices in music, we're practicing for silencing them everywhere else. I know what some of you might be thinking, but things are better now, right? We have Beyonce and Lizzo and Megan Thee Stallion. Problem solved. Let me be clear. Visibility for a few is not equity for all. Exceptional success stories don't negate systemic barriers. When we point to the few who've broken through as proof that the system works, we're missing the point entirely. The question isn't whether some can succeed despite the odds. The question is why the odds exist at all. 0.09%. That number isn't an indictment of Black women's talent or appeal. It's an indictment of our systems, our biases, our collective failure to recognize and rectify historical wrongs that continue to shape our present. But here's where the story shifts. Here's where possibility enters. Despite facing these systemic barriers, Black women persistently carve out space for themselves through creativity, advocacy, and resilience. Their perseverance not only shifts narratives, but also inspires broader movements toward equity. Some institutions are beginning to listen. Some are consulting directly with practitioners who center marginalized voices. Books like Where Are All the Black Female Composers are being used globally across educational settings. Advisory boards are becoming more inclusive. Collaborations with major platforms like the BBC Signal Slow movement toward institutional change. But vigilance is needed. Progress can stall at the surface level if we let it. Transformative potential lies not just in adding names, but in rewriting narratives so future generations grow up seeing possibility where their predecessors saw silence. When Black women win, everyone wins. Hampton told me during our interview. Our liberation is bound up together. The systems that silence Black women's voices ultimately diminish the richness of our collective cultural experience. This isn't about charity or tokenism. This is about recognizing excellence that has always been there. This is about removing barriers, not lowering standards. This is about expanding our understanding of what music can be. who can create it, and whose stories deserve to be told through it. So, what do we do with this knowledge? How do we move from awareness to action? If you're a music consumer, and that's all of us, challenge yourself this week to actively seek out music created by Black women you haven't heard before from any genre and share it widely. Don't just listen passively, engage actively, learn their stories, follow their careers, support their work. If you're an educator, examine your curriculum. Whose stories are you telling? Whose contributions are you highlighting? Whose excellence are you celebrating? If Black women are absent or tokenized in your teaching, change that. Not as an afterthought, but as a central commitment to musical truth. If you're in the industry as an executive producer, radio programmer, playlist curator, venue owner, festival organizer, or journalist, look at your numbers. Be honest about your biases and then do better, set measurable goals, track your progress, hold yourself accountable because 0.09% isn't just a statistic. It's a moral failure. It's a cultural impoverishment. It's a betrayal of musical history itself. We cannot claim to love music while ignoring those who have shaped it most profoundly. We cannot celebrate artistic expression while silencing essential voices. We cannot build a musical future worth having without honoring the full spectrum of musical brilliance. The work of Brycsyn Hampton reminds us that this isn't just about adding a few more songs to a playlist. This is about fundamentally reimagining our relationship with music, with history, with each other. This is about creating a world where 0.09% becomes 100% unacceptable. So today, I challenge you, no, I implore you to become part of the solution. Listen differently, program differently, teach differently, learn differently, because different isn't just better, different is necessary, different is just, different is long overdue. The symphony of our musical heritage has too many missing notes. It's time we restored them, amplified them, celebrated them, not as an act of charity, but as an act of cultural completion, not as a favor to Black women, but as like a gift to ourselves and to future generations who deserve to hear music in its fullest, richest, most authentic form. The unheard symphony awaits. All we have to do is listen.